Beast Yeast episode 9 and 10 are finally out, and I think this is the most well-rounded story Cookie Run Kingdom has put out in quite a while. And I think Eternal Sugar Cookie is now my favorite Beast cookie, and that's not just my recency bias talking. If you are confused as to why I said that, you're in luck because, well, that's literally why you clicked on this video. So, disclaimer, major spoilers for the Beast Yeast story, episodes 9 and 10. If you haven't completed them yet, make sure to do so before watching this video. What I say in this video is all entirely my personal opinion, and you should always take them with a grain of salt. If there's anything I would want to add or any mistakes I'd like to correct, they'll be down in my pinned comment as always. Now, this video will be slightly different from my previous videos on the Beast Yeast stories. I'll give you a brief explanation on what happened, and I'll give you my commentary on them in chronological order. Actually, now that I think about it, that's exactly how my previous videos went, didn't they? Well, the story starts off the same way Dark Cacao's Beast Yeast journey started. Holly Berry reads Pure Vanilla Cookie's letter and heads off to Beast Yeast with her minions, plus Tiger Lily Cookie, who came along with the luggage. And immediately, I get hit with the first jump scare of the episode. Wait, that's a he? Well, it is Cookie Run Kingdom, so I should have seen this one coming a mile away. Cupid is a boy after all, so I guess it does make sense, but still. One very interesting detail about all the NPCs in the Garden of Delights is that all of the Sugar Angel cookies have both angel wings and demon horns, as a subtle nod to the fact that they are the Beast's allies. And it's not just the Sugar Angels that has this trait. While Eternal Sugar Cookie doesn't have demon horns, she does have the tail and wings, along with actual angel wings and a halo above her head. Hello, so this is me from the future here. I forgot to add this in my script, but if you look at what Eternal Sugar Cookie used to look like before she got her power split in half, you'll see that she doesn't have these demon-like features, and instead has two extra set of wings. One on her head, which is, by the way, separate from her tiara, which I will get to, and the other one in the same place as her current second set of wings. Which I know in this sprite is a little bit hard to see, but it's also the only sprite where you can see it, so yeah, that's the only one we got here. Her tiara is also interesting because it has the heart shape in the proper position, rather than being upside down like how it currently is. This is pretty strange, because in Shadow Milk Cookie's costume, where it showed what he looked like before, being corrupted and stuff, the Soul Gem was already upside down, like how it currently is. So what's going on? Well, maybe it's a symbolic thing, maybe the devs just thought it looked better that way. But other than the Soul Gem, her tiara also features a set of wings. The reason I said these wings on her head was not part of her tiara is because the outlines on the tiara are very distinct, while the wings, on the other hand, aren't. This leads me to believe that it is separate from the tiara, but I mean, it could just be some sort of shading thing, but I don't think so. When we compare both their tiaras, you'll see that the wings on her tiara got significantly smaller and hollow as well. This could symbolize that she fell from grace or whatever. Okay, one last thing. Is that she has a lot less hair than she did before she got corrupted. So yeah, she is balding. Confirmed. Well, this is the most symbolically complex design of a character that I've ever seen from a Cookie Run character, ever. The artist really popped off here. I'm actually really impressed. Okay, now back to past me. All of their demon traits combined, the horns from the NPCs and the wings and tail from Eternal Sugar Cookie, all come together to create your typical depiction of a demon. You may notice that Pavlova Cookie, and later on in the story, Sugarfly Cookie, doesn't have these traits, and that's because they weren't originally from the Garden of Delights as stated here in this loading screen. But anyways, after that we got to meet Eternal Sugar Cookie, and let's just say Dev Sisters knew what they were doing with this cutscene. I have a feeling that this episode is going to spawn an incredible amount of fan fiction. Skipping ahead to the end of episode 9 here, when Holly Berry Cookie figures out that Eternal Sugar Cookie is in fact the beast that she was looking for, we get a full-on psychological analysis of Holly Berry Cookie here. Now, even though in other episodes of Beast Yeast,
we do get to see the mental struggle of all the other ancient cookies, but none of them, in my opinion, has gotten a full-fledged psychological analysis like this before. It's especially surprising considering that it isn't something that Death Sisters do very often. Like, this is the stuff that I expect from like a Genshin story quest or something. Ignoring the fact that this whole bit is just a lame exposition to get you to sympathize with Hollyberry Cookie, since it's been quite a while since we've witnessed her mental anguish, but I do have one very big question, and that is, how do the beasts know the ancients so well like this? Like, you've only just met for like, what, a day at most? And now you suddenly have a like psychological mental pathway to all of the trauma this cookie has ever experienced. I do understand though, since they share separate halves of the same soul gem, they are more deeply connected than just any regular cookies. But answer me this, if Eternal Sugar Cookie can access Hollyberry Cookie's trauma, then why does it go both ways? Why can't Hollyberry Cookie psychologically connect with her counterpart? It just seems sorta unfair, isn't it? I guess one of them is like handcrafted by the witches and have lived for way longer, but still, it just doesn't feel right to me somehow. Episode 10 starts off with Hollyberry Cookie's minions looking for their queen. Something I find very funny about this first scene, well, no, actually the entirety of episode 9 and 10, is the voice acting for Raspberry Cookie. While I am extremely grateful that she was even voiced in the first place, there are some scenes where her lines just weren't delivered in a way that fits the situation. And you know what? Let me just show you what I mean.
Hollyberry Cookie, maintain formation. He's out cold.
Best I've seen, we made it out.
What an unsettling place. You will not set foot out. Something is very wrong.
Well, I don't know about you, but to me, this for some reason just enhances my experience in a somewhat strange way that I can't really describe. It's hilarious. Anyways, after this scene, Tiger Lily Cookie disappears for, no particular reason. That's definitely not going to become a crucial part of the story later or something. I would wink at you right now, but since you really can't see my face, there isn't any point to it. Also, when Tiger Lily Cookie disappears, Raspberry Cookie and Wildberry Cookie has this sort of like delayed reaction that I find incredibly hilarious.
They left.
Just like that? But why?
Like, imagine if that happened in real life. Like, if someone came up to you and told you something surprising and you go, oh, okay. But how? You know? My theory for this is either illogical script writing or some sort of editing error, I don't know. Oh, or maybe, in Korean it's like less cringe than this. Maybe it's something that a lot of Korean people do or something. I don't think so, but if you have any insight on this, I'd love to hear about that. Next, the game makes you go into this sort of like sub area. You could say that out of all the sub areas in this game, this one is most certainly one of the lamer ones in my opinion. It just houses like one small mini game and like, I don't know, half a scene in here, and that's it. Like, at least something like the pomegranate tree, it has like some sort of cutscene related to it, but this one is just like, it has just one mini game and like half a cutscene. Maybe it's the color scheme that's throwing me off a little bit here. Slight tangent here, but despite how much I like the story or the characters, I just can't really get over how ugly the aesthetic is. The color scheme, as I've said, doesn't really go together well. Pink and green is a classic color scheme, usually looks good together, but this is a like special case where it just doesn't work. This putrid combination of mint green and bright pink isn't something that's really pleasing to look at in my opinion. It has that eye-scorching feeling when I look at it. Like, I do trust that people can still make things that look good by using this color scheme, but the aesthetic that they went for as well, it isn't really helping it either. The Greek-inspired infrastructure does look really cool, but the highlight of the Garden of Delights, as the name suggests, is the greenery. The style they went for is very cartoony and wacky to make it look like some sort of dream world or something. They also added these creepy undertones to symbolize how this garden isn't what it seems or whatever. Not to mention all the teeth motif that they've got going on. Like, I know it's sugar, and you can't have sugar without teeth decay or whatever, but still, the way they execute it is very, yeah, that. To be fair, since I am a guy and I do have, like, an instinctual distaste towards the color pink specifically, but I am also an artist, and I do use the color pink quite often, believe it or not. Next, we see Holly Berry Cookie getting kidnapped, and in the middle of her conversation with Eternal Sugar Cookie, an intruder arrives at the garden. So Eternal Sugar Cookie goes to deal with the problem, and this is where the story splits in two. We'll start with Holly Berry first. Once Eternal Sugar Cookie leaves, Holly Berry Cookie requests to go outside to talk with Pavlova Cookie about happiness or something. Aww. This part of the story could very well be seen in two different ways. Either that Holly Berry Cookie has accepted her fate and wants to find happiness in the garden, or the more likely thing was that she was trying to trick Pavlova Cookie into escaping and finding her friends. Obviously, if she wanted to escape, the easiest way is to immediately knock out Pavlova Cookie and bookend it to where her friends were. She is strong enough to do so, but what's strange here is that she didn't do that, and instead took the time to have like a conversation, you know, with Pavlova Cookie, which is weird and gives a little bit more credibility to our first theory of Holly Berry accepting her fate and stuff. Maybe all of her protect the garden talk is just a way for her to get to her friends, which, you know, if that's the case, is pretty cool. A lot of the time when characters in this franchise get kidnapped, most of the time they'll just brute force their way out, or at the very least use their magical powers to escape or something. Like Golden Cheese Cookie when she got kidnapped by Burning Spice. It's nice to see that they actually use a genius method for once. But regardless, this plan of hers results in her getting to reunite with her friends through Sugarfly Cookie. Meanwhile, Eternal Sugar Cookie meets with the intruder, and normally you'd think that the intruder would be like Wildberry Cookie and Raspberry Cookie, but wouldn't you know it, it's actually our good old friend Shadow Milk Cookie. What makes this interaction really interesting is that this is actually the first time we see two beasts properly interacting within the story. This gives insight on how the beasts actually truly feel about each other. We've heard before that beasts kinda don't get along very well, and my theory is that this would actually be the catalyst of their downfall later in the story. But back to these two, we can clearly tell that Eternal Sugar Cookie is rather hostile to Shadow Milk Cookie, in a way that we've never really seen her do with any other cookie before. Not even the cookies who came here to like actually kill her, you know, like Holly Berry and her minions. I don't know if Holly Berry Cookie would actually have the guts to actually kill another cookie. Or maybe she would, who knows. We've never actually seen a cookie, you know, get killed by a hero before. But anyways, wait, have we? Well, I'm too lazy to go look that up. Anyways, Shadow Milk Cookie came to the garden to get the berry from the heart of the garden. I'm gonna skip ahead in the story just a little bit here, and by a little bit I mean to the literal very end, because what Shadow Milk Cookie is referring to here is the berry of all pains that Holly Berry Cookie ends up eating at the end of the story. He says that it's for this struggling student. Now, I don't know who he's referring to at this point, because although this could have happened before he met Pure Vanilla Cookie, it's extremely unlikely because he refers to this individual as a struggling student, and in my opinion, he wouldn't know if Pure Vanilla is a struggling student until he actually tries to convert Pure Vanilla Cookie to his side, which happens in episodes 7 and 8. And at the end of episode 8, Pure Vanilla escapes from Shadow Milk Cookie's spire, so it wouldn't be after either. If it was happening during episodes 7 and 8, there is not a point in time where Shadow Milk Cookie leaves his spire in the story. So I don't think he's talking about Pure Vanilla Cookie here. Another possibility is Wind Archer Cookie, but the same goes for him and Pure Vanilla Cookie, since there's no point in the story where Shadow Milk Cookie would have been able to do that. So, that leads me to my third theory, which is a very possible theory, and is that it's probably White Lily Cookie. Now, hear me out. If supposedly this event is happening within the same time frame as the next BC's episode, which will very likely be White Lily Cookie and Silent Salt Cookie's episodes, Shadow Milk Cookie could be helping Silent Salt Cookie acquire White Lily's Soul Gem, and maybe one of the strategies to do so may be to use the berry of all pains. But I still don't know for sure. Maybe some of you in the comments may shed some light on who he may be referring to. Anyways, from their conversation, this is where Eternal Sugar Cookie's true personality starts to become apparent. She disapproves of Shadow Milk Cookie's attitude towards tricking others for his own benefit. If we sort of rephrase that, we'll see that Eternal Sugar Cookie truly wants Cookies to be happy and safe, without Cookies like Shadow Milk Cookie taking all the benefits for themselves without sharing it with others. This is the point in the story where I actually start to realize that, hey, maybe Eternal Sugar Cookie isn't actually evil and is just genuinely a nice cookie. I will elaborate more on this once we get through like the rest of the story, and I will point out any parts where this becomes even more apparent. Now comes the character development arcs. Yes, there are multiple. Hollyberry Cookie reunites with her friends and immediately gets hit with another problem, and that is that all the cookies in the Hollyberry Kingdom are suddenly just here in the Garden of Delights. You know, even if Hollyberry didn't decide to go to the paradise in the first place, Eternal Sugar Cookie would have probably just transported them there anyways. So there isn't really any way for Hollyberry Cookie not to go through her character development arc, which is incredibly funny. But seeing all the cookies in her kingdom hypnotized by Eternal Sugar Cookie sent Hollyberry Cookie into a downward spiral, as one does, and luckily for her, her minions were there to help her with character development. It's actually kinda nice to see that happen in the middle of the story rather than at the end. Well, her character development arc concludes at the end, but I'd say her journey towards that conclusion is much more spread out into the story compared to some of the other ancient cookies' character development arcs, like Dr. Cacao's for example. And a cool thing I notice here is that the reason Hollyberry Cookie randomly picks up a jar lid as a shield is because they needed to use Hollyberry Cookie's sprites that has a shield. But since canonically the shield is broken right now, they can't really just use a sprite that has like a chunk missing from it. So yeah, it kind of locked them out of using like half her sprites. So having a makeshift shield really helped with that problem, but it's still really funny that they had to think of a lore reason for why they get to use the sprites. Shortly after that, we get to fight Sugarfly Cookie, and after we win, she starts spiraling as well. And then we got to experience the, probably the shortest character development arc I've ever seen. She goes from glazing Eternal Sugar Cookie to defying gravity within the span of 2 to 3 cutscenes. It's crazy. Similarly, you could say that she went from a lame one-dimensional character made to constantly praise Eternal Sugar Cookie to a character with depth and her own motives. It's a little bit insane how much a character development arc can benefit a character, no matter how long it is. It definitely added to Sugarfly Cookie's character in a very impactful way. Oh yeah, and I forgot to say, Hollyberry got her Soul Jam back as well, so, I think this is the first time an Ancient has gotten their Soul Jam back before their climatic fight with their Beast counterparts. But she is also the fastest to sort of get over her mental anguish compared to the other Ancients because, in my opinion, I feel like she is the least mentally ill out of all the Ancients, believe it or not. While all that has been going on, remember Jungleberry Cookie from a few minutes ago? Yeah. She discovers that all the Hollyberrians were transported here, and unlike Hollyberry Cookie's other minions, she actually does something about it. This scene in particular has been a long time coming, since some of the older players may remember just how long ago it was when Tiger Lily Cookie was revealed to be Princess Cookie's biological sister. If I remember correctly, it was ever since the first Hollyberry Cookie update 4 years ago. What? Gosh, I'm old. Finally getting to see Tiger Lily Cookie interact with her parents almost feels surreal in a way, and immediately Tiger Lily Cookie's daughterly instincts kick in and starts trying to take care of her parents by shoving food in their mouths. Okay, that's not exactly what happened, but the berry was so tart and sour, it somehow snaps them back to their senses. But then after that, Eternal Sugar Cookie just starts coming at them one by one and putting them all into jars. Except, of course, Hollyberry Cookie. And this is also one of the reasons why I said Eternal Sugar Cookie is just a very nice cookie in general. Because she tells Hollyberry Cookie that she could just leave with no consequences. Well, except for the fact that Holly Berry Cookie needs to take a bite out of the berry of all pains. Which, aside from the fact that it literally just looks like a regular, like, golden apple from, like, Minecraft or something, actually holds all the pain and suffering that occurs in the garden. Despite this, I'm still pretty certain it was a nice choice to give Holly Berry Cookie a chance to leave at all. She very well could have just trapped them all in here forever. But I guess in her point of view, there's like basically no chance that Holly Berry Cookie would want to leave. And it is more impactful this way, because if she does agree not to leave, she would maybe like accept her fate more quicker or something. They have this whole back and forth between the two, and obviously Holly Berry Cookie decides to just eat the berry and leave. And in doing so, Holly Berry Cookie gets her magical girl transformation. It's like how in Pokemon, sometimes when you want to evolve your Pokemon, you'll need some sort of like elemental stone to do so. But for Holly Berry's case, it's just like a suffering berry or something. I seriously don't know why, but that's just funny to me for some reason. Even after she ate the berry, Eternal Sugar Cookie just keeps giving her a thesis over and over again about pain and suffering, and like, as if that's gonna change her mind after she made the choice to leave already. And when that obviously didn't work, duh, she tried to fight them instead. She obviously loses, and now she has to listen to Holly Berry's thesis about passion or whatever. Eternal Sugar Cookie is still stubborn though, and tries to flood the place with jam in order to trap them there forever, and oh, that's why she's called Eternal Sugar. So at this point, she tries to convince Holly Berry Cookie to stay for like 3 separate times already. First is the berry, second is the fight, and third is the jam flood. Like, she sure doesn't give up, does she? A really interesting part of this is when Holly Berry Cookie just asked Eternal Sugar Cookie to like consider what she said so far. She, as in Holly Berry Cookie, of course. And to my surprise, Eternal Sugar Cookie actually responds with a yes. Like, I thought beasts were supposed to be like stubborn and like, you know, stuck in their own ways or something. That just adds to what I said about her being nice. She's actually open-minded, even if a little bit. And in the end, she had nothing but nice things to say about Holly Berry Cookie. But okay, so I said I was going to give you a deep dive into Eternal Sugar Cookie's character, so here it is. Eternal Sugar Cookie is the embodiment of happiness, and in her pursuit of happiness, she slowly turned her ideals towards sloth instead. Now, I do think the word sloth is not a very good representation of like what her ideal really is. Sloth just generally mean like laziness or something, which to me doesn't seem to have like anything to do with her story at all. Instead, I feel like a better word to use is actually like indolence or something, which also could just mean lazy, but it's a more elegant way to describe it. Plus, it also means avoidance of activity, which may just sound like laziness all over again, but I think the word avoidance in this definition fits her logic very well. Like, she's trying to avoid pain and suffering by using her Garden of Delight as like a shield from the rest of the world. Or some may say it's more akin to a cage rather than a shield. She genuinely believes that what she's doing is best for all cookies and genuinely wants them to be happy. Even Holly Berry Cookie acknowledges this in the story as well. Like, there are no undertones of wanting them to suffer or anything. She must have felt that it was very unfair when the witches trapped her in the tree like that, since she thought she was doing the right thing. Like, dude, I've literally been doing exactly what you've told me to do. All the cookies look really happy, like why are you trapping me in here like this? Because remember, in her point of view, she was doing the right thing. Like, it reminds me of one time when I was in like 3rd grade or something. This is relevant, okay? My class was having some sort of exhibition thing, and I told the teachers that I would want to make a model of the dinosaur bone structure. Because yes, I wasn't into dinosaurs, but rather their skeletal remains, but that's a story for another day. My teacher suggested that we make them out of some sort of plaster mix, and I don't know exactly what it is, but I do remember that it was supposed to be like kneaded first. My teacher left me to do the kneading by myself, and you know, being a kid and all, kneading this thing is quite a tedious process, and I was getting, you know, kinda bored and started brainstorming some solutions to make the process go faster. I remember seeing on TV people mixing like wine with their feet and stuff, and since they are both like a process of mixing, I thought it would apply to this as well. So I plunged my dirty little 8-year-old feet into the paste. And the teacher came back right as I was doing it and immediately got very angry at me. Sort of understandably so, since the floor of the classroom was naturally like very dirty with flakes of glitter like literally all over the place and such. So it isn't surprising for the teacher to get really mad at me, but at the time I didn't know that. I thought it was completely fine. What makes this worse is that the teacher didn't tell me why she was angry at me. Okay, like I do know it's because I put my feet in the dough, but like she didn't really specify why it was wrong, you know? She then proceeded to take the tray with the plaster mix away, never to be seen again. The tray was never to be seen again, not the teacher, of course. So in the end, I didn't even get to make the model. Not that it would have turned out very good anyways, but it would have been fun nonetheless. If you are a teacher and watching this right now, please don't do this to your students or anything similar. It seriously doesn't help and confuses them more than it actually is supposed to. Back to Eternal Sugar Cookie. A very interesting thing that I noticed is that she never really gets angry at anything. Or rather, it's more like she's like incapable of feeling anger, if you know what I mean. Has she been passive aggressive? Probably. Annoyed? Yeah. But never really like angry, like how Shadow Milk Cookie is angry at Pure Vanilla. Well, you know, that's a pretty extreme example, but you know what I mean. Even at times where she's supposed to be angry, like when Holly Berry Cookie tried to leave the Garden of Delights, the emotion that comes out on top is more like sadness and desperation and shock, as opposed to like anger and such. All in all, I think these 2 episodes are definitely the most well written out of all the BC's episodes within the past few years. The general distribution of story and pacing feels a lot more meaningful and natural, which is quite different from say episode 6, where like half the episode is just fight scenes. Okay, maybe like a third or something, but you know. From what I could remember, the ending was honestly quite a drag compared to this episode, where things flowed way more smoothly. Another thing that I think this episode does very well is the inclusion of all the characters. Think of episode 3, where they struggle to even have Crunchy Chip Cookie and Caramel Cookie be of any relevance to the story, and by episode 4 they've almost completely ditched them, except for the very last scene. But while in this episode, they had Wildberry Cookie, Raspberry Cookie, and even Tiger Lily Cookie, they managed to make them all be an integral part of the story. And I'm pretty sure Tiger Lily Cookie pretty much carried this whole operation, because if you think about it, without the sour berries, none of the cookies would have been able to think straight, and Hollyberry Cookie wouldn't have been able to have her character development arc, and they would have all been stuck there. As for the last scene, where Pavlova Cookie has his transformation literally out of nowhere, I'll save that conversation for a later time, because I think Pavlova Cookie's character hasn't really fully arced yet, if you know what I mean. We'll probably have to wait for like a year or 2 for this, but I still don't think it's right to talk about it now. And I think that pretty much wraps up the video then. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you have any of your own opinions that you would like to share or have something to add, I would love to hear them down in the comment section. Anything I would like to add will also be down in the pinned comment. And before you comment, please do read my pinned comment, so just in case I have already answered your questions or something. But I will see you in the next video. And remember, true happiness doesn't come from escaping reality, but comes from accepting it and facing it head on. Goodbye! Oh my gosh. This is where Eternal Sugar Cookie's true personality starts to become apparent. Not a parent, a parent. It's like how in Pokemon sometimes when you want to It's like how in Pokemon sometimes you want to evolve your Pokemon, and it's like how in Pokemon sometimes you'll want to evolve your Pokemon and you'll oh my gosh. There's a word missing in my script. That's messing me up so bad. Okay, let's try this again. And I think Eternal Sugar Eternal Sugar oh my gosh. Okay. From some sort of torture device, Eternal Sugar. Why do I keep saying that? Oh my gosh. Ignoring the fact that this whole bit is just a lame exposition. Let's try that again. It's just a lame exposition. Ignoring the fact that this whole bit is just a lame exposition.